Thanks so much for tuning in. This is the GPOddCast. This is the second episode. I can't imagine you listening to the first episode and being like, man, I can't wait for the second episode, but it's here already. And we're going to talk about so much good stuff. We've just picked the cream of the crop of topics to talk about. Devin was telling me a really interesting story he didn't want to share on the podcast before. Devin Kavanaugh is my co-host here.
Hey, what up?
And I also have Nolan Allen.
Hey.
Thank you so much for being a part of my show, the GPOddCast. When I initially pitched the show, I was thinking of taking the GP out of it, but that's kind of like a brand now.
Yeah, it was pretty great how we came up with that too. Just on the fly, right like minutes before the first episode, we're like, what's the name?
And it works so good. Podcast, the P from my last name, Perry, and then Oddcast. And we talked about that on the first episode. We're all odd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a weird group of dudes.
Welcome to G-Pod.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
like peas in a pod, yeah. Wow, that's the dad joke of the day right there.
Let's move right into our first segment. I don't think we have much to talk about. We're going to talk about a movie first. And Nolan, you suggested this movie. It's called Night on the Galactic Railroad.
Yeah.
How did you find this movie?
I've never heard of this before. It sounds so obscure.
Yeah. So years ago, I watched it on Space, the sci-fi channel, when they used to be cool.
Yeah.
They used to have a lot of odd sci-fi movies.
The commercials.
And anime.
Those weird commercials they had on Space. That was always a dope time.
Yeah.
It's weird trailers.
Back when the commercials were high content, like early MTV days. And it's like, man, living for the commercials.
The highlight.
Yeah, so I watched it years ago. And I just thought of Garrett when we're going to review movies.
Yeah. I'm a cat artist. If you haven't known already, I don't hide it. I paint cats almost exclusively. It's hard for me to pick up a paintbrush and paint almost anything else. So we found this movie on YouTube, and it didn't even have that many views. So I watched it, and the biggest thing that jumped out was just the voice of the main cat character. It was the voice of Ash Ketchum. It was like the same voice.
Yeah.
I want to be the very best. I had to Google it too, and it was the same voice actress,
The
Veronica
very
Taylor.
cat you can be.
She's so talented. She
Yeah.
does so much work. It's great.
I was so disappointed. We'll talk a little bit about Pokemon, that when she left Pokemon and they had a new voice for Ash and like that new voice for Meowth and Brock, I was just out of it. I was like, you know what? That's it. I used to love this show, but you can't just get rid of Veronica Taylor like that. This movie, Night on the Galactic Railroad, is deep. I was not ready for it, to be honest. This dealt with death.
I'm going to be frank. I didn't watch it. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's very slow paced. It's from the 80s. It's I don't know. I almost want to say it feels like it was a lower end production. Like all these fantastical things are happening going through this magical galactic railroad. But for the most part, it's just showing the cat's reactions. I was just like...
Yeah, so the movie starts out with like a little cat village. You meet the main character in class, I guess, is it? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It starts out with the professor talking about the Milky Way and what it is. And his classmates are pretty much just bullying him.
Because he's a cat?
Yeah. Oh, because his dad is away and is supposed to come back with otter skin coat.
Yeah.
and I don't know, if I didn't know that they were specifically teasing them, I would have been like, man, they really want to see this kid's coat. It's like, damn, I want to see this kid's otter skin coat. But no, that was the teasing. oh, gonna get an oilskin coat. A little bit of levity, but it took me a long time. It was about an hour into the movie, and this is at the point of the movie. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, very spoiler.
Very big spoiler alert. The Galactic Railroad, there's on the in the afterlife. They're going to heaven and stuff, and they just all of a sudden they reach these other characters come on the train too, and they're like humans. Everybody else has been a cat up to this point, but I'm pretty sure that they just drown off the Titanic.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, like, the cats themselves are dead then if they're on the train, too.
Well, it's a very slow burn. Like, they hint at things, but you don't think too much about it until later.
They just flat out told me. That's when I found out. I was like, oh, my God. What a twist.
Well, it's like when he meets his friend on the railroad eventually. He's like, oh, like they all tried to catch me, and then they just weren't fast enough. And they're like, oh, what are you talking about? Why are you wet? Like your clothes are wet. But you're like, oh, you don't think anything. Oh, he caught the train and his friends couldn't catch him, right? And then later, weird things. Meets different people at different stops.
Very eccentric people, cat people, normal people. They're all dealing with death, though.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like they're like it's like a limbo, and they're coming to peace with what happened to them in life. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and then you just the further along you go, and then that's when it should hit you. Is like, oh, these guys talk about being on the Titanic, and I couldn't get out, and
yeah, there's a lot of like fear of God and love. And I don't know. I think they're almost straight up quoting the Bible at one point. And it's like, and there's a big cross.
I also thought it was interesting that the Christian writers would write it like that. They're like, oh, of course the Europeans would think about their Christian God on the Titanic or something. You know.
Yeah, this movie hit me hard. I just recently lost a friend to a car accident earlier this week, about 5-6 days ago, and I wasn't quite ready to. This movie wasn't the perfect fit for me. It just made me really contemplate. Well, I mean, it was perfect actually, perfect timing, kind of. Just the freak accident is what gets me down too. I was wondering why she wasn't responding to my messages, and then. When you find out something this terrible has happened, it's almost unbelievable. You don't want to.
It is very shocking. Because you just talk to somebody and to lose them in a car accident like that is.
Yeah, and it's just like one day you wake up and people go on Facebook and people are like, "Oh, rest in peace." And like, "Oh, wait a second, something's fishy here."
Wow, that's very sad.
No, yeah, it's been a few days of moping around, just not knowing how to really deal with the situation. But I guess this movie gave it a little bit more of perspective. I definitely feel the sadness that the main character expresses when he comes to grips and finds out what's going on and having to say the final goodbyes and stuff.
You never know, like, when your last day is, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. You just got to live every day like it is. You're going to be your last, and you just got to do as much as you can and try and have a positive influence on the people around you, right? So, I don't know. It sounds like this movie has a really great message there, and it's relevant to everybody. So, good choice.
Yeah, it was a great movie. It was slow. I was thinking of 1970s classic horror movies. There's just a lot of walking, a lot of animation of just the cat walking back and forth. Oh, I got to go get milk for Mom.
Yeah.
I give this movie 9 out of 10 fish.
9 out of 10 fish is pretty good.
What about you, Nolan? You actually saw the movie. You get to...
I was going to give it a 10 out of 10, but
yeah,
I take that back.
I definitely give it an 8. Like, yeah.
This is a good early animation. It's no Studio Ghibli in the beautiful sense. There is like kind of hint at it, but it's more
Yeah.
left to your imagination, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fair to say.
I thought it was so weird that they had like people and they're like the cats go here and the people go to the cross. It was like really, they have like a huge tableau of like this shining light with a silhouette of a cross on the hill. And they're like, this is our stop.
Interesting. It's because like cats, they don't have religions, right? But
Yeah.
in the end, like we're all gonna go to like the same place when we die, whether that's like heaven, hell, or reincarnation, whatever you want to call it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
heavy stuff.
Yeah. One of the reasons I really remember this movie is the music, though, too.
The music, okay.
The music just off the top was so good.
I kind of zoned out at the beginning of this movie because I gave it 2 attempts. I fell asleep the first time around. I was just kind of zoning out anyway. So I watched it again, and I didn't fall asleep, but I was kind of, I don't know, not really paying attention at the beginning. So, no, I don't really remember the music at all. It was more about the message and the relationship with the friends.
Yeah.
There was this one moment in particular I remember when one of the girls from the Titanic came on, and I think I just felt like she was getting along with the other cat, like not the main character's cat's friend, and it felt like there was a real moment of jealousy going on, and I just felt that moment hard for some reason. Like, oh man, he feels like he's having a moment of jealousy here. But that might have been just me interpreting this.
It's amazing that like animated films can spark that, right? Like you get that a lot in like live action, but when it's animated and it comes across like that and stirs emotions,
Yeah,
fantastic. That's how you
but
know
then
it's
that
good.
was mostly the music going on in retrospect, and the like long lingering shots. We got to move this show along. This is the GPOddCast. We're broadcast on 88.7 CFUR. Believe it or not. Let's just move right on to our next segment, Nolan.
So we're going to review and talk about Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1.
Everybody knows this game.
Most people.
Most.
Oh, yeah. Let's say 99% of gamers.
I was familiar with this game just from watching my brothers play it, and I was really only familiar with like the early on access to the game, and then later on the chocobo races.
Oh, the chocobos. So memorable. They're
Yeah.
great.
The grind.
Yeah. You guys remember though, like the first time you get one, you have to like cross the swamp where there's the giant anaconda.
Yeah, the Zolom.
Yeah, that's right. And then you can always go back to it and like learn like the big nuclear explosion attack. Forgot what those are called, but it's like yellow magic or whatever. Anyways, but that, I don't know. That was a scary moment. Like you're running through there before you get the chocobo. You run through and it's like it's chasing you down. You see it coming. Then all of a sudden the fight starts and it's this huge snake and it's just like what? And it one hits you. It's like okay, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Got to go grind before I start this over again or avoid this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about. The enemy skill
Mm-hmm.
with red magic.
That's right. Red
Yeah.
magic, not yellow magic. Yep.
Yeah. That game is. I had a lot of fun with it at the when I first played it.
It's 3 discs on the original PlayStation 1, so it definitely has some length to it.
It's one of those games too. Like as you're playing through it, the feeling that you get when you like leave Midgar is like awesome. You get out and you're like, oh, progression, finally, open world. This is so cool. It's completely different than the first 4 hours of the game you've just played through. I think my
very
first
linear the first couple hours, right?
right, but it sets it up to be just like contained in a city, and then all of a sudden whoa, there's a world out here, and there's more cities to explore. It's so cool. But every time you get to a new disc, you get that same feeling of accomplishment. Like, wow, the end of an era, the beginning of a new chapter, right? So it's cool. I'm really passionate about that. So
I'll be honest, I've never actually played through this game all the way.
No.
I just started it about a week ago. I didn't get very far. I played it for about an hour. And I was
Nice.
just like, I got to the next save point. I'm like, I'm going to save here. I'm tired of playing.
How far
And,
did you get?
Not far. I was like, we're just going to go blow up the second reactor. I think that's what we're heading towards. So it's just like really, really early on in the game.
Good time.
And I just recently played through Super Mario RPG. So I was used to a little bit of a different fighting mechanic fresh in my memory.
There's
when
a
you get
huge
to-
delay in the battle system. Like you make a decision and you don't see it for like another turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then on Super Mario RPG, you get you get the opportunity to double your attack damage by tapping A at a specific frame.
Mm.
And I don't know, I missed that heavily in other RPGs.
Legend of Dragoon did that too, and it was kind of cool. You'd have you actually pick which combo you want to use, and depending on which one you chose, you have to press X at different timings and different like frequencies. And so your guy would do like a triple slash, but you hit every time to get the next slash. So if you failed, you'd only do half of the potential attacks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the same mechanic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, plus it would build like meter for your like limit break kind of thing where you turn into
Ah.
a dragoon. Yeah, very cool game.
Nolan, you just played through this game twice recently on the PlayStation 4 trophy hunting.
Platinum trophy.
Platinum trophy. Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a real accomplishment.
Believe it or not, it's one of the easier ones in Final Fantasy to get a platinum on.
Do you have to beat the like all the weapons, like Ruby weapon?
Yeah.
Oh.
All three. Yeah.
And the biggest one was a cutscene very late in the game, and it depends on earlier interactions with games, who shows up to your hotel room and takes you on a date.
Yeah.
And then the final trophy is the hardest one to get, and it's the other guy, Barrett, the big black guy with the gun arm.
The gun hand.
The gun
yeah.
hand, and he'll take you on a date, and that's the hardest trophy to get, I'm assuming.
If you fail, you have to play the game again. Yeah, from the
So
start.
is it just like
10 hours.
so
right
the
there?
first time you played, who showed up for the date?
I think it was Eris. Yeah.
Eris.
It's almost impossible not to get Eris. You have to try really hard.
You got to be mean to her.
You have to be absolutely mean.
That's terrible. I love
And-
Eris.
You can choose who you're gonna. I guess if you want to choose somebody else, yeah.
Isn't there like to get Barrett, you have to in the town where you dress up as the girl and get with like Dawn or whatever?
Yeah, you get points throughout the game for doing certain stuff.
Yeah.
Like you do get points for being chosen.
Yeah.
And then you refuse his advances when
Yeah.
the Dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you say, do you have a boyfriend or something? And you go like, yeah, his name's Barrett.
Yeah. Nice. Barrett's such a cool like character. He's so like diverse.
Yeah, I made
You
my
know.
brother change his name to Garrett just because it's
Because it was so similar.
so similar. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be the big tough guy.
But yeah, like a big burly black guy who's a homosexual, but also a single father because he's raising the daughter there. the
That's
little girl,
right.
Who's his friend?
Yeah, his adopted daughter.
Yeah.
Like,
And he-
must have been the Godfather.
Yeah, and then there's this plot where you confront the dad, and it's an emotional scene for his like development. So it's a really cool fight.
And Nolan, you played through this game in anticipation of the re-release. They're remaking this game for the PlayStation 4.
Yeah. Beginning of next year, I believe they're going to be releasing Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah,
And
They just-
I just got to see just a little trailer, the early stuff I was familiar with, and it's all done in HD graphics. It's totally a different game.
it's like the action combat from Final Fantasy 15, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, with the re-release, isn't it? They're releasing it in kind of segments, right? So there's going to be the first game that comes out here is the Midgard like storyline. So it's all about that, the journey, blowing up the reactors.
So this would be like
Seducing
the
Dawn.
disc 1
Yeah, well,
kind of thing.
the first half of disc 1 kind of.
How? Yeah, it depends on how many stories. Like,
But like what they're saying is like if they're going to spend the time to remaster it, they want to like revamp the entire experience. So, and maybe that's just PR to be like, hey, we want to release multiple parts, so you buy the whole thing. But I don't know. I want to believe it, and I think it'll be cool. So
It looks great. It looks better. I saw the Final Fantasy VII sequel movie that they released. It looks way better than that movie that they released.
You talking about Advent Children?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It had Cloud in it.
Yeah. There was the other. Sorry, I know we're running out of time here, but there was the other movie too where it was like a sci-fi kind of shooter, Spirits Within. I think that's what it was called.
Another Final Fantasy movie?
Yeah, Final Fantasy
Spirits Within. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was very different though.
Yeah, but I don't know. It seemed like it just had some of the spirit ideas there, like the ideas of the planet in
Being
Final
alive
Fantasy VII.
and,
Yeah.
like Mako energy and stuff, or Mako, whatever, however it's pronounced.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only connection.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it was just a generic sci-fi movie.
it totally was. It kind of aligns with more of the newer stuff they've been releasing, like 15. Like it's very like sci-fi, steampunkish, right? So
Yeah, one of the things I'm wondering is the materia system was so, what do you call it? Customizable.
Yeah.
Like you could make any. You can almost make the gameplay itself sometimes if you had the right materia.
yeah, like a counter attack and then hit ×4, like counter spell, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that like this is what I think they're gonna do. The materia system will be like you'll have your combos and stuff, but then you'll insert materia to your weapon, and so now your combos will have like a flame or thunder kind of flourish to them.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be something cool if they
Definitely.
do something
That'd
like
be
that.
awesome.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess let's move on to the music segment here.
Da-da-ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da. I picked the music for that we wanted to review. I picked Chris Hadfield, an astronaut. He brought a guitar into space on his astronomical missions, and he brought a laptop with GarageBand, and I believe what he did was he just recorded a guitar and his vocals, and he sent it down to Earth, and they recorded the rest of the album.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
And then because there's a lot of instruments going on in the final. He's most famous for his cover of
Space Odyssey? Or,
Space Oddity. Yeah.
Oddity, thank you. Ooh,
David
love that song.
Bowie. Yeah, and he made a music video while he was in space too. I guess he had a webcam on his laptop, but it's nothing spectacular except that he's in space, which makes it extra spectacular.
It's out of this world.
It's out of this world.
Hey!
Ew. Yeah, and it's just like just a shot of inside the cockpit, and he like throws the guitar, and it's just like floating through space. It's like, wow,
That's cool.
that shot would have been pretty crappy on Earth. Throw the guitar and it would just fall down.
One thing I really liked about this album was like on Spotify, the whole thing is there, but then underneath is a kind of commentary section where it's Chris Hadfield talking about each song,
Oh,
where
cool.
inspiration came from. A lot of them were like some of the songs, something smoke. Like the first song on the album,
Yeah,
it was written by like his cousin or something.
his brother,
His brother, yeah. So he tells the story of like
Big Smoke. Yeah,
Big Smoke. There it is. Thank you. So he tells the story of like how it came to be that he had the song up there. There was one that he wrote with his son, and yeah, I think it's awesome. And it's funny because a lot of them are, no pun intended, grounded to like space and that adventure and not being on ground. Like some of the troubles that he went through, right? So
yeah, can't keep his feet up, can't keep his lunch down.
there it is. Yeah.
I remember that lyric. Yeah. One of the last tracks on the album is called "Ride That Lightning." That one I recommend you check out. That one was one of the first ones I heard that was an original by him, and it's still one of my favorites on the album. Did you take a listen to this, Nolan?
Yeah, I thought it was a great collection of like folk style songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Neil Young so much.
Dude, that's what I thought the first song was. I was like, is this a Neil Young cover? Big Smoke? But no, not at all. But yeah, he kind of emanates that, or, you know what I mean? He shoots that energy out there.
Yeah.
The Neil Young energy.
Fantastic musicianships going on. I don't know who the other musicians were on the album who were probably recording their stuff on Earth, but sadly, next time we're bringing the whole band into space. We're going to record an album on Mars.
Yeah, I was hoping that's what they did in the first place. Just tape a musician to the wall.
Yeah.
Get him to play drums.
Would be so
man.
good.
It'd be cool. Yeah, just become friends with Elon Musk, and then he can take you to Mars, and you can make an album up there.
Now we just need the first rap album in space.
Ooh.
Just bring a drum machine and you're just going to float around.
Would
Make
Ice
a new
Cube
music
do
video.
it? Ice Cube?
I think we
Just
should do
cold
this.
up
Let's go into space and record this rap album.
Yeah, obviously the big highlight was definitely Space Odyssey. I
Oddity.
noticed that
Oddity.
Oddity, yeah.
Switching back and forth.
Yeah. The YouTube video has like 43 million views now.
Yeah.
Wow. It is really spectacular, that music video. I don't know. I can't get enough of it.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch it.
That's-
I'm not one of the 40 million.
But you listen to the album.
Yeah. Whole thing, start to finish. That's one thing I kind of miss about music is like sitting down and listening to a whole album start to finish.
Yeah, that's what I kind of like doing for this show. The Chris Hatfield album I listened to a whole bunch, though.
Yeah.
That one I continue listening to. I was listening to it earlier today, just in anticipation.
Yeah. It's stellar.
Thank you so much again for tuning in to the GPOddCast. I'm Garrett Perry.
I'm Devin Kavanaugh.
I'm Nolan Allen.
And man, it's great to be odd. It's better than being normal. Being normal is overrated.
Totally is.
Fitting in with society, capitalism is overrated. These are just my final thoughts. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Oh, man, if you're odd and you're listening and you want to be on the show, reach out. You know, we're on Facebook.
We'll read the YouTube comments sometimes,
Yeah.
maybe, and don't be too. Final thought, Nolan.
No.
Man of little words.